The Renaissance is a period in Europe that is between the 15th and the 16th century. It is a particular period that is important to our time today because it was a time, or it's a period that bridged the gap between the medieval period and our modern time. One of the things that characterized the Renaissance was a call by many philosophers and educationists to return to the original writings, that is, to the original source. And so we had a situation where the writings of classic writings by people like Plato, Socrates, and other Greek philosophers were being sought after. And of course, those writings were also determining the ideas that were emerging from those days. Now, something else was happening in the churches also. In the churches were also returning to the original writing. But rather than go to Plato and Socrates, the church writers or the theologians returned to the original right that the church believed in, which was the Bible. So there was a call to return to the writings, to the original writings, to the Bible, and also to the writings of the Father. People like Augustine, Tertullian, and a lot of them, Now, what this led to, the Renaissance then led to a situation where a lot of people spent time to study original sources. And that means that in the church, you found theologians who were studying the Bible and who were studying the church fathers. It is what led people like Martin Luther and Ulrich Zwingli to be able to discover the doctrine of the Reformation. The positive side of the doctrine of the Reformation is the fact that the church was introduced to a concept called sola scriptura, where we came to know the gospel, especially great doctrines like justification by faith, the priesthood of all believers, and so on. The downside of the Reformation was that two things. Number one, the people could challenge authority. They could challenge either the ecclesiastical authorities of the day or the political authorities of the day, because they looked to scriptures and they saw that God gave voice to the ordinary people in the scriptures, and that is what led to that. Now, after the Renaissance and we had the Reformation, the next thing that we had was that the world was introduced to a period called the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was a period between the 18th century and the early 19th century. So when you have a people who have been exposed to a lot of learning in the Renaissance through development of arts and sciences, and then you have the Enlightenment where a lot of scientific discoveries came forth, and then a lot of process in which people were able to produce things. What we now had eventually was that the church or the world was now beginning to experience an industrial revolution. Okay, so first of all, I would like to trace it. We had the Renaissance where we had the Reformation, and then we now had the the Enlightenment that led ultimately to the Industrial Revolution. Now, one thing characterized this period, and that is the blessing or the beauty of the ordinary person being able to produce and in the process make a lot of money. It led to the doctrine of pragmatism, and that's to say that if a course of action can lead to result, or if a course of action can lead to blessing or prosperity, that course of action is better preferred than some other. Okay? Initially, before the Enlightenment or even before the Renaissance, what was central to world ideology was faith. People had faith in God. People had faith in the unseen. Okay, whether that faith led to some prosperity on earth or not did not matter. What mattered is that people placed faith, at least as dictated by the church. But eventually, after the Reformation, the Enlightenment, and the Industrial Revolution, we began to have pragmatism in the sense that faith was relegated and result was uplifted. What people could get out of the system was uplifted. Okay, and faith now began to be put to the background. That's why in the time of the Enlightenment, that was when we began to have people coming out to say they were atheists. Prior to that time, nobody ever said he was an atheist. But when pragmatism and result was exalted above faith, then people could actually discount faith. Now, pragmatism basically is what is practical, what can bring result, what can bring money. Okay, and one man whom I'm going to discuss about today was at the forefront of pragmatism, at least in the area of religion, or in the area of faith healing. Okay, that man's name is Phinehas Quimby. Phinehas P. Quimby, and this is the person I want to talk about in this discussion. Phinehas Quimby is an important personality to the subject of faith healing, and even to the whole subject of the prosperity gospel, which is what we have been talking about for some time now. Phinehas Quimby, even though he never claimed to be a religious person, formed many of the first principles that has led the churches to what we have today as far as the prosperity gospel was concerned. So like I said, in his time, Quimby, the prevailing ideology of his time was do something that will back result, do something that will bring prosperity and healing in some case. So Phinehas Quimby was born in 1802. Okay, he was known to be a mesmerist, or he was known to be involved in mesmerism. Okay, and he was also known to be a clockmaker. Mesmerism is actually taken from the practice of a man called F.A. Mesmer. Okay, it is a religion or a practice in which people use hypnosis to bring healing to people. Okay, and so through hypnosis and through some kind of magic, he was able to bring healing to ailing people. And there was no doubt about that these things produce results. So, Quimby learned the art, okay, but Quimby took his own art a little further. Quimby attached some doctrines to the art of mesmerism, okay. He wasn't just involved with hypnosis for hypnosis' sake or hypnosis for healing's sake. Quimby was able to show that there were certain fundamental beliefs that determine whether a person was going to be healed or not. In fact, before Quimby came into the whole practice, he himself had experienced healing, okay, in his youth. And while growing up, he suffered tuberculosis. But he noticed that he used to have a lot of relief when he took horse rides around town. Okay, and the galloping kind of helped him to ease his pain. He realized that there was a connection between the rhythm of the horse and even his mental state. It led him to come to this doctrine that the mind can actually have power over matter, or mind over matter doctrine, in the sense that just like the mesmerist, you could actually use your power, the power of the mind, from your mind to produce tangible results outside of you. Okay, so Quimby came up with two fundamental doctrines. He said that disease was caused by unbelief, or disease was caused by errors. Okay, and in the flip side, then it means that the person who is going to experience healing must know truth. Belief was caused by unbelief. Diseases was caused by unbelief. However, healing is going to come by truth. Now, the question is, what exactly is the unbelief Quimby is talking about? Quimby's unbelief, or what he believed, or what he portrayed as unbelief, was this: that people were sick because they thought or they believed that they could be sick. Okay, if you think you can be sick, if you think you can be susceptible to illness, then whenever the illness comes, you will indeed be susceptible to it. However, if you have a condition of mind where you feel and you believe that you cannot be healed, cannot be sick, then you will not be sick. That's on one hand. On the other hand, if you are sick and you believe that you can be healed, then you will be healed. Okay, so Quimby, who was originally a mesmerist, now saw it as, took it a little further into his practice of hypnosis, and said that if people have a mindset, rather than even coming to the mesmerist or coming to the hypnosis, okay, they could actually exercise healing themselves. Okay, and there's no doubt about the fact that Phinehas Quimby's practice yielded result, because ultimately he had some very high rated personnel who came to get healing from him, and they learned the art from him. A woman named Mary Eddy Baker, who went on to form the cult called the Christian Science, actually came to Quimby and was healed of her diseases. Okay, Quimby never claimed, and this is very important, Quimby never claimed that his technique had any connection to religion. Quimby never claimed any connection even to Christianity. He only believed as a hypnotist or as a mesmerist that the state of mind can condition the results that you get out of life. Don't forget that they were in a period of pragmatism. The end was what justifies the means. If you get result out of a process, that is what was justifiable. It doesn't matter the process or the technique that you are using. Okay, and that kind of trumped faith. When in a period where people believe that the just will live by faith, they didn't believe that. They believed that whatever gives you result is what we will come to. Now, the teachings of Quimby led ultimately, in fact, historically, Phinehas Quimby is regarded to be the founder of a movement called the New Thought religion, or the New Thought movement. Encyclopedia Britannica says this about New Thought. New Thought sees truth as a matter of continuous revelation, and no one leader or institution can declare with finality the nature of truth. Okay, so New Thought, the foundational belief to New Thought is that truth is progressive. Time reveals more and more truth. Okay, so the truth that we used to know yesterday can change tomorrow. Okay, so that is what New Thought believe, and this was taken from Encyclopedia Britannica. All right, the International New Thought Alliance in 1916 made this central statement about their ideology. This is very important. They said, New Thought teaches the infinitude of the Supreme One, the divinity of man, and his infinite possibilities through the creative power of constructive thinking and obedience to the voice of the indwelling presence, which is our source of inspiration, power, health, and prosperity. Please take note of that. They believe in a supreme one. They didn't say they believe in God. They said they believe in a supreme one. They also believe in the divinity or the divinity of man, okay, and man's infinite possibilities, our creative power through constructive thinking and obedience to the indwelling presence, which is the source of inspiration, power, health, and prosperity. So, New Thought is basically saying this, that if you look within yourself and you hear a voice from within yourself, you are able to get enough inspiration to create all the power, all the health, and all the prosperity that you need. There's a lot to New Thought, but I believe that you're going to get a picture of what New Thought is if I'm able to list out their teachers or some of their leading teachers for us. Next to Phinehas Quimby, the founder, these are some of their teachers. Number 1, Robert Schuller. Number 2, Dale Carnegie. 3, Napoleon Hill. 4, Joseph Murphy. 5, Norman Vincent Peale. 6, Ralph Waldo Trine. And 7, Mary Eddy Baker. Now, of course, we know, I think one of them, I believe this should be Robert Schuller that wrote Think and Grow Rich. Okay, this is basically what, I'm being corrected, they said it is Napoleon Hill that wrote Think and Grow Rich. This is basically New Thought. But if this generation may not be very vast with these materials, one New Thought material that we cannot deny today is the documentary called The Secret, okay? And it is a documentary that teaches about the power of attraction, all right? What you think is what you attract to yourself. If you think positive, you attract positive things. If you think negative, you attract negative things. They encourage positive thinking. They encourage, positive energy, and so on and so forth. They are concerned about your thought, the realities about your thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, what am I saying here? there is a difference between what works and what is biblical. The truth of the matter is that the techniques and the practices of new thought, many of them work. That's why those people were in business for a long time, and they made a lot of money out of it. And even the people who listened to them got health and they got well, okay? But their doctrines were not biblical. There's a difference between something that works and something that is biblical, okay? What works is what is pragmatic, what will bring you health, what will bring you prosperity. What is biblical is what honors God, what the Bible dictates we do. Okay, so we have gotten to a point now in our time, and the fruit that is coming out of the West is showing us that we are at a stage where we will either choose between a pragmatic lifestyle or worldview or a biblical worldview. The prosperity gospel presents pragmatism. They present techniques. And they took all of these things from the New Thought. In my next video, I'm going to be speaking more on the New Thought, but I'll be centering this time on Mary Eddy Baker and the Christian Science. Thank you for listening.